nicely furnished room that is set for breakfast.
Good morning, Clara.
Good morning, Aunt.
Did you sleep well?
Not especially. I think it's the quiet. I find it rather unsettling.
Unsettling?
In London there's rarely complete silence.
I would have thought the quiet of the Irish countryside would have been conducive to a night's sleep.
I'm sure I shall become used to it in time.
I hope you will be happy here. It is a quiet place, but with plenty of social engagements and a magnificent midsummer's ball at Lady Mumford's. Have you nothing to say?
I'm sorry, Aunt Elizabeth. That sounds lovely.
I know it cannot be as exciting as the life you have led in London, but it is very pleasant nonetheless. And we do have some very fine families, you know. Most of them have been educated in England, of course, but they return and build gracious homes here that would compare favourably with any that you would find in England. A young woman such as yourself would be lucky to marry into one of these families, very lucky indeed. And there shall be some very admirable young men at the ball, you know. Many of them looking for an accomplished young lady from a good family to set up their household with. Honestly, Clara, I'd expected a more enthusiastic response to the prospect of a ball.
I don't really enjoy balls.
How could you not enjoy a ball? Every young girl enjoys a ball. When I was your age, I lived for them. It's where a young girl gets to shine, to impress, to show her worth to the world in general, and young men in particular. It is where she finds suitors, gentlemen who shall woo her and flatter her, vie for her attention.
That is what I find so difficult. There's just something so false about it.
Nonsense. There's nothing false about it. It is simply an occasion where suitable matches can be made.
Well, I plan to marry for love.
Well, you will soon discover that love is ephemeral, where bricks and mortar are solid and lasting.
Is it too much to expect both?
Oh, where on earth do you get your ideas from, Clara?
I just like to think about things. And besides, not all women get married.
All the better class of women do.
My friend, Miss Thorpe, has not married.
Miss Thorpe? Was that the young lady your father employed to be a companion? Was she not engaged to help prepare you to enter society?
In the beginning, yes.
Was she not out in society herself? Well, she was from a good family, if I recall.
She is from a good family.
Was she a homely woman? Did her father not leave money to ensure a good marriage for her?
She's neither homely nor without a dowry. She's just chosen not to marry.
How very contrary. I suppose it is from her that you get your ridiculous notions of love and choices.
It is true. We did speak of love and marriage, amongst other things.
And did she feel that love was more important than responsibility when selecting a husband?
She felt that everyone should be allowed to choose whom to spend their life with.
Well, if you present yourself well, niece, maybe you shall have a selection of fine suitors to choose from.
Maybe I don't wish to be married either.
Does your father know this?
We have discussed it a little.
And how does he feel about it? Is he happy to leave his only daughter unprotected?
Well, he has agreed not to force me to marry a man disagreeable to me.
Oh, your father indulges you, I think.
He just wants me to be happy.
Stuff and nonsense. It is his responsibility as a father to ensure you will have a good husband to take care of you after he has gone. Anyway, as I said, there will be many social engagements and a fine ball, so I'm hoping you have plenty of suitable gowns.
My full wardrobe hasn't arrived yet. I left London so quickly, my maid didn't have time to pack everything.
Your father said your companion, Miss Thorpe, had to leave suddenly. I'm assuming that's why he felt it was best that you come here?
Yes. Well, it was something like that.
Never mind. You are here now, and we can make do with your current wardrobe for the present. I'm thinking, though, rather than make new gowns, we can freshen up some items from your current wardrobe. Add some new ribbons or maybe some new lace. We have some very fine lacemakers here, you know. They are peasant women, but Mrs. Corden, the vicar's wife, has taught them well. Their handiwork is much sought after in London and Paris. So, after breakfast, we shall take a look at your gowns and select one or two for modification. I know Mrs. Corden will assign one of her best workers if she knows it's for me. A sparsely furnished room with a long table and benches on either side.
Moira,
Yes, Mrs. Corden?
what are you working on right now?
Nothing of my own. I'm helping Sheila with the second cuff for Mrs. Heron's gown. She's managed to get the threads in an awful mess. I think I'll have to undo an inch or two to get her back on the right track.
Good. I'd like her to finish those up and to move on to the collar.
Mm-hmm.
And can you also check with Sinead that her handkerchief edging is coming along? I set her a new pattern and I need to be sure she has it straight in her head.
Mm-hmm. Is it all right if I bring Koch in to join the younger girls in class?
Of course. Oh, I'd be delighted to have her here. I've no doubt she'll prove to be as talented a lace maker as her sister.
We'll see.
How is her cough? Has it improved?
Much better now, Vegas lady. The wool vest under her smock seems to be helping.
I'm glad Felicity had completely outgrown it, so I'm glad that someone else shall have the use of it. So when will Koch be joining us?
After Easter, I think.
Very good. I look forward to seeing her. Mrs. Tennant has written to say she would like to place a new order with us. Apparently she has a young niece staying with her and she wants to freshen up some of her gowns by adding new lace. I'm going to suggest that you bring a sample book to the house so she can decide on patterns and yardage.
On my own.
I can escort you if you'd like, but I don't think it's necessary. You know all the patterns and are well able to calculate yardages.
Won't Mrs. Tennant expect you to be there?
Well, I shall express my full confidence in you in my note to her.
She won't be happy with that.
Moira, you know I want all my lace makers to be able to work independently of me. Take their own orders, deal directly with their own customers.
Even if they don't want to deal with the likes of us.
Oh, they'll quickly learn that you ladies are experts. And when they discover that they don't have to pay an agency if they order directly from you, they'll soon come around. Besides, Moira, if you're planning to go to America to start a new life, you need to learn to be independent. Here's your chance to start doing that. Build up your confidence.
Suppose so.
Listen to me, Moira. Over the years, I've seen you take such great care of Liam and Koch. This is just the next step forward for you all.
Well, I am glad they've been able to remain in school. I don't want anyone looking down on them if they don't know their letters and numbers. People do. You know, I've seen merchants cheat people because they don't know their numbers well enough to count coins. I used to have to help my parents when we went to the market, make sure no one was cheating them. One time Sean O'Mercu tried to cheat Maher, tried to leave him short on the price of a pig. Maher knew what kind of a man he was, though. Showed me the coin Sean had given him before handing over the pig. The Schlieveen had only given him 6 shillings instead of 8. He was boiling when I told Maher, and he made him hand over the 2 extra shillings.
Now, English, please, Moira, you know the rules.
Yes, Mrs. Corden.
So, are we agreed you shall go to Mrs. Tennant alone tomorrow?
Very well. But don't be surprised if Mrs. Tennant sends me back with the sample book wrapped around my ears.
Oh, good girl. And don't worry if she gives you a large order. I'll give the simpler pieces to some of the other girls, and you can concentrate on the more complex ones. Now off you go. Help Sheila and Sinead this morning, and I shall send a note to Mrs. Tennant to say you shall be there tomorrow morning. The living room in the big house. Moira is standing beside a sofa where several gowns are laid out. She's examining the hem of one gown when the door opens and Clara and Mrs. Tennant walk in.
False.
Yes, false. Everyone, men and women, are pretending to be things they are not in order to sell themselves. They are unnatural, hiding their flaws, presenting a false picture of who they are in order to convince someone to marry them.
And what is wrong with that?
Well, is it not a form of lying?
Of course not.
Why can't we present ourselves honestly, as we really are?
My dear Clara, if we were all to do that, no one would marry and the human race would die out. There must be a degree of pretense before we marry. Time enough for honesty after the wedding breakfast is eaten.
I just feel that people, marriages even, would be happier if they were entered into honestly.
You should count yourself lucky that you have been given some choice in who you marry. I was married off to a man 3 times my age at my father's instructions. I had no say in the matter.
That is awful.
Well, he had promised my father a piece of good hunting land in return for my hand, so
And were you happy with this?
my father got what he wanted. My husband got what he wanted, and I got a beautiful wedding and this house.
And did you consider this a fair exchange?
I never thought about it one way or another.
Well, I think that is rather sad.
Why on earth would you think that? I made a fine match, and I do not regret it in the least. Who are you?
I am McAnally. Mrs. Corden has sent me to show you the lace samples.
Really? Mrs. Corden sent you?
Yes, ma'am.
She said she'd be sending one of the lacemakers.
I am a lace maker.
What are you? 16?
18, ma'am.
And how long have you been making lace?
8 years, ma'am?
Goodness. Is your mother a lacemaker? Did she teach you?
No, my mother's dead, ma'am.
So is mine.
I hardly think that's relevant, Clara. What did you say your name was?
McAnally.
Oh, you Irish and your ridiculous names. I shall call you Mary. So, show me this sample book. You can leave it with me. I shall go through it at my leisure and write a note to Mrs. Corden when I have made my selections.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but Mrs. Corden gave me strict instructions to wait while you made your selection and then return with your order and the sample book.
Well, that is very inconvenient, I must say. I shall have to speak to Mrs. Corden about this.
We only have 3 sample books, ma'am, and they're rarely allowed out of the school. Mrs. Corden is very particular about this.
I suppose you better remain so, although it is very tiresome. I will probably be quite some time. Fine. I shall tell cook there will be 1 extra for lunch. You can eat in the kitchen with the servants. I beg your pardon?
Nothing, ma'am. Just a little prayer.
Right. Well, you can start taking measurements or whatever it is you need to do while I go and speak to cook.
Those are my gowns.
Yes, miss.
I have more, but they haven't arrived yet. From London. They are coming from London. Have you ever been to London?
I've never been outside this parish.
Oh, of course. Sorry. Do you mind if I stay here while you work?
It's your room. It's not for me to mind.
I'll just sit over here then, out of your way. May I ask if you enjoy your work?
You mean this? I like making the lace itself, this bit, where you have to do all the measuring, and after, when you have to sew the lace on, I don't like that as much.
Must be nice to be able to make something so beautiful.
It's nice to be able to make something that people want to buy.
Of course. I'm sorry. Do you ever make any lace for yourself?
I can't afford to make something just for me. Each piece means food and clothing for my family.
You have children.
I have a younger brother and sister who might as well be my children.
Are both your parents gone?
Yes, Gavon, she had a suveness.
So you must raise your brother and sister.
Who else if not me?
Have you no aunts or uncles who could step in? That must be very hard for you.
Not as hard as it's been for others. At least I have the means to make money to put food in my family's mouths.
And others don't?
Are there no poor people where you come from?
I suppose there are. I just have never met any.
Isn't it well for you?
Are there many poor people here, in Ireland?
Not as many as there used to be. Most of them died or went to America.
How did they die?
Hunger, mostly, or sickness.
Is that what happened to your parents?
Yes. And my baby sister, Saoirse.
That's so sad. Why had they no food?
Because the potatoes rotted in the ground.
Could they not have eaten something else?
There wasn't anything else.
Well, how did you survive?
Some people from Mrs. Corden's church set up a soup kitchen to feed the hungry people. Our parents sent us there to be fed.
Couldn't your parents go too?
Only if they agreed to turn away from their faith, and my parents wouldn't do that.
But they allowed you and your brother and sister to eat there.
They knew that God would forgive them for saving their children and that children were pure and would find their way back to the true church in time.
And could the wealthy people not have given food to the poor people?
Some kind souls did. Most didn't.
That is shocking.
What is that your people think little of the likes of me and mine?
My people.
English people, people with land and money.
I cannot believe that all English people here are like that.
No. Well, some, like Mrs. Corden, tried to help. She taught many of the local women to make lace and paid them for their work. And some of the landowners gave jobs to the men, building and the like. But most of the fittest men had already gone, and those left were too old or sick to work.
I cannot believe this, that people would be so heartless as to let people starve like that. What about my aunt? Did she not help?
She did no more nor less than most of her kind.
Maybe she didn't know what was happening.
Didn't care, more like.
That is very harsh judgment.
But a true one.
My father says we should always give people the benefit of the doubt. It is the Christian thing to do.
Well, I take as I find.
And I suppose you find me lacking.
I don't know you, miss.
And yet you are judging me, I can tell.
You don't know me either, so you can't know what I'm thinking.
But it is written all over your face.
Now, let us take a look at these samples. If I ordered this edging for the blue gown, how long until it is completed?
Neckline or cuffs?
Both, I think.
Well, it depends on how much other work I have to do for Mrs. Corden.
Other work?
Yes, I help some of the other lacemakers with their pieces, and I also teach the younger girls.
Well, I'm afraid my order is pressing and must take priority.
And I'm sorry, but I can't afford to just work on your order. I earn additional money from my teaching.
But I need this lace finished quickly.
And I need to keep the roof over my family's head, ma'am.
Very well. I shall pay you extra.
How much extra?
Whatever you would have made through teaching.
As you like, ma'am.
But you must come and do the work here, so I can keep an eye on your progress.
I shall have to ask Mrs. Corden.
Don't worry about that. I shall send her a note telling her I need you here. Now, Clara, which one of these do you like?
The living room in Mrs. Tennant's house. Moira is seated at a table working on some lace. Clara enters the room and stops, looking at Moira and then peering back down the corridor before closing the door.
I'm sorry. I forgot you would be here. Do you mind if I sit here with you?
As I said before, miss, this is your house. It is not for me to tell you whether you can stay in a room or not.
Well, in truth, it is my aunt's house, although I do live here. I'm actually hiding from my aunt.
Hiding?
Yes. We had a disagreement last night and she hasn't stopped berating me since. So I decided that the best thing was to stay out of her way.
So she couldn't berate you any further?
Exactly. Why are you smiling?
I'm sorry, miss. It's just that's what my little brother does when he knows he's in trouble with me.
So you think I'm behaving like a child?
I know nothing about your troubles with your aunt, miss. I only said that my brother hides from me when he knows he's done something wrong.
Well, that's the thing, you see. I don't think I have done anything wrong. But my aunt refuses to listen to me.
Well, that one is fonder of talking than listening.
It's so hard to make her understand my point of view.
Is there no one to speak up for you?
I don't know anyone here apart from my aunt and the servants. May I tell you the base of the disagreement with my aunt?
Well...
Oh, please. I feel if I put my side of it to someone, maybe I'll be able to see it more clearly. I'm not asking you to solve my problem, just to listen to it.
All right, miss. But I have to keep going with this.
Thank you. Yesterday afternoon, my aunt announced that an acquaintance of hers would be joining us for dinner, and that I should take special care with my toilet. I couldn't think who this visitor could be to cause such a request, but I did my best to comply. As it turns out, it was a gentleman who has been recently widowed and is the father of 4 children, the youngest being a baby, whose birth resulted in the demise of its mother.
Mr. Godfrey?
Yes, that was his name.
God help any woman who marries him. I would say it was a merciful release for his late wife.
But that is what my aunt wants me to do.
Marry him?
Yes. She says he has a fine house and plenty of money, most of which he got from his dead wife on their marriage.
Well, he may have a fine house, but he keeps a miser's grip on his purse.
Really?
Treats his tenants very poorly. And it is said he tries to cheat every tradesman he deals with. Mrs. Corden had to refuse orders for lace from his poor wife as he hadn't paid for the earlier prices.
How can my aunt try and make a match with us?
Maybe she doesn't know the full extent of his poor character. Creatures like him are very good at hiding things.
And he is so old. Oh, he must be at least 30.
They say you can't kill a bad thing. And that fellow will bury a few more wives before he puts a foot in his own grave.
Well, I shall not be one of them.
Well, I wish you luck with it.
No, she can't. I shall write to my father immediately and lay it all before him. He will not try and make me marry such a disagreeable man. I'll go into that right away. My aunt will be writing to him too, I'm sure. Who knows what she'll say. She'll probably paint a picture of the most desirable man in Ireland. I think I hear someone coming. It could be my aunt.
Behind the curtain.
Ah, Mary. Has my niece been in here this morning?
No, ma'am, I haven't seen her.
Well, if she does come in, tell her that I'm looking for her.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I couldn't bear to talk to her right now.
You're very welcome, miss.
Can I ask another favour of you?
You can ask.
When it is just the two of us, do you think you could call me Clara?
Your aunt wouldn't like that.
She doesn't have to know.
I should tell you that your name is very close to a word in my language.
Really? I hope it's not something disagreeable.
It's Clara.
And what does that mean?
It means friend.
I love that. Maybe I'll change my name to Cara.
And you may call me Moira.
Moira. I like that.
Mrs. Tennant's living room. Moira sits at the table as usual, working on lace. Clara is standing at the window with a letter in her hand.
My dearest Clara, I was not surprised by your most recent letter, as your aunt has also written to me regarding your disagreement. While I don't like to think of you being upset, you must understand that your aunt also has your best interest at heart. Your late mother was her only sister, and I believe they were very close growing up. It is only natural that she sees herself as a mother figure to you in the absence of your dear mamma, and truly believes that she would have wanted her to assist you in making a good match. In truth, it was through your Aunt Elizabeth that I met your mamma, so maybe she is better at matchmaking than you are giving her credit for. I don't believe in forcing people into unsuitable marriages. However, you must see that marriage is inevitable for you, as I will not always be here to look after you. With this in mind, it would be best for you to consider possible matches that your Aunt Elizabeth presents you with. And always remember, we all just wish for you to be happy. With all my love, Papa.
Well, at least he hasn't said you have to marry Mr. Godfrey.
No, but he is saying I have to marry someone.
But sure, wasn't that always the plan? That you find a match here in Ireland?
I suppose. In a vague way. Just not right now.
And has your aunt brought you any more fine gentlemen looking for wives?
No, thank goodness. It's humiliating, really. The thought of having to sit there and be judged like a prize cow or something.
Well, I think it should be the other way around. You should be judging them. I have a grand idea. Tell your aunt you want all the single men brought together in one place. The stable yard, maybe. Then you can get them to walk around in a circle so you can have a good gawk at them.
Moira!
You can check their teeth and their legs, make sure they're in fine fettle before considering them. Then you should say you want to talk to their servants to see that they treat them well. That's always a sign of good character.
What else should I do?
Be sure to look in their pocketbook. A man who has money but leaves it all at home for fear he might be asked to part with some is a miser and best left alone.
I think you should pick a husband for me.
Well, be sure to suggest that to your aunt next time she tells you she's bringing a gentleman over for dinner. She can have a place set for me at the table.
I think the shock might kill her.
No, I don't like the woman, but I don't want her death on my conscience.
Do you ever wish you could do whatever you want, without having to ask someone if you may?
Of course. Doesn't everyone?
Goodness, no. I know plenty of young women in London who would be terrified of the thought.
Really?
They couldn't decide on their favourite colour without consulting their mammas first.
Maybe it's because we don't have our mothers with us that we learnt to make up our own minds. And
Perhaps. Do you have any special friends, Moira?
I have friends in the lay school. And Mrs. Corden is a person who will always help me if she can.
I envy you. I had a very good friend in London. I could tell her anything. I valued her opinion above all others, as I knew she would always tell me the truth.
Are you not friends anymore?
Yes. At least, I think we are.
You don't know if you're still friends.
It is painful for me to even think about.
You don't have to tell me if you don't want.
No. I think I want to. Miss Thorpe, Vera, lived in our house with us. She was brought in to be my companion and to help me move into society, as I didn't have my mother to assist me with this. We became very close, and I admired her above all others. But my father didn't agree with a lot of her ideas. They would argue frequently, and finally, after a very loud argument, my father told her she would have to go. I pleaded with him to let her stay, but he wouldn't listen. He was convinced that I would be better off without her.
And didn't she tell you where she was going?
Well, she was to write to me to tell me where she was. But then I was sent here before any letters arrived. I was hoping that my father would forward any correspondence addressed to me, but there has been nothing.
Do you think your father has kept her letters?
I don't like to think that of him, but maybe.
It's very cruel of him if he has. Sure, what harm can a letter do?
I think he's worried I'll run away to be with her.
Surely to God you wouldn't do that.
If she'd asked me to, I probably would have.
I could never leave my family.
Maybe if my mama was still alive, it would have been different. We could have talked about things and she'd understand me and always want me to be happy.
Do you remember your mother?
Not very well. I was only 5 when she died. I've seen a painting of her in my grandmother's house that was done when she was 18. People say I look like her, but I don't know. I think I remember her tying ribbons in my hair while I sat on her knee. I was probably only 3 years old. Sometimes I think I'm only imagining it, that it never happened, but it makes me feel better anyway.
Even if it didn't happen, she's given you the memory of it as a comfort. Showing you she's still with you.
That's a lovely thought, Moira. Thank you. Do you remember your mother well?
I remember some things about my mater. Bits and pieces, not a whole picture. I remember the callus on her right middle finger from spinning. And the way she laughed. And small curls above her ears.
Do you miss her very much?
I'm sorry my brother and sister had so little of her.
And your father?
Maher was a beautiful man. He sang all day. He used to call me his little Spideog.
Spideog?
It's a small bird with red feathers on its chest. I don't know what it's called in English.
A robin?
I don't know. Maybe.
Why did he call you
Spideog. He said I was always hopping around, never stopping one place for long.
That's lovely. I wish I could speak another language. It just seems so exotic. I had a French governess for a while who was supposed to teach me French.
And didn't she?
Not really. I just remember her dabbing her eyes as she read letters from her fiancé who was away with the army.
Did she teach you for long?
Just a few months. My father let her go because the housekeeper complained about her turning the heads of the footmen and the undergardener.
The poor woman. Wasn't her fault those Aegis couldn't keep their heads on straight.
I think there was also some talk of her drinking wine in her room and leaving the empty bottles under the stairs.
The poor creature, you drove her to drink.
It wasn't me. Well, I was only about 10 years old.
I bet you were a right deal, Biog.
What on earth is that?
A little devil.
I was an absolute angel. Anyway, I learned very little French from her, and anything I learned I've long since forgotten.
Well, you must use a language in order to keep it in your mind.
Do you use your language much?
Of course. When I speak to my family and my neighbours.
Say something to me in Irish.
Like what?
My friend Moira makes beautiful lace.
Déanán Macara Moira, Lása Álan.
Déanán Macara Moira, Lása Álan.
Anma?
What does that mean?
It means very good. If your mother was alive, would you have liked her to pick out a husband for you?
I don't know. I think I would have liked her advice.
Did she have a husband picked out for her?
I don't think so. My papa talks about first meeting her at a ball.
Maybe they saw each other and fell madly in love.
Maybe. I'm sure she would have been allowed to marry him if her parents didn't approve, though. But my father is a kind man, so it must have been a good marriage.
Well, if you speak so fondly of her, I'm sure it was.
Would you like to get married?
Some days I think, wouldn't it be grand to have someone to share my burdens with? And then other days I think, isn't it grand that I don't have to answer to anyone but myself?
Do you have a beau?
A what?
A sweetheart?
Heaven forbid.
Are there no nice young men in the village?
I wouldn't know, I've never looked.
Why? Why not?
Well, no sense in looking for a husband when I'll be off to America soon enough.
America? Why are you going there?
What's left of my family are there, and there are opportunities in America for young women like myself.
But you can't go.
Of course I can, I must.
Why must you?
Because I want a better life than I have here.
But what about Liam and Coach? You're not just going to leave them here, are you?
Of course not. A neighbour will take care of them until I've settled in America, and then I'll send for them.
When are you going?
Not for a while yet. I've enough money to pay for my passage. I just need to save for the children's and a bit more besides.
But what will I do when you're gone?
Whatever you were doing before you met me.
Do you not care? Do you not miss me at all?
Of course I'll miss you.
Will you?
Why do you think I've been dawdling over this for so long?
Have you really?
I should have finished this trimming weeks ago.
Really?
I was even beginning to feel a bit guilty about it, taking your aunt's money and all, and then I remember what a cranky old baggage she is and dawdled some more.
See? Oh, you can't go. I need you here to make me laugh.
Don't be upsetting yourself, sure. I'll be here for a good while yet.
But I can't bear to think that you will ever leave.
But Clara, even if I wasn't going to America, my work here can't go on forever. And once I'm finished working here, you won't see me anyway.
Why not?
Because you live here and I live in the village. Our paths will never cross again once I leave. Please don't cry, Clara. Please.
She takes Clara's hand and puts her other arm around her. Clara lies her head on Moira's shoulder. Eventually, she raises Moira's hand and kisses the back of it. She looks at Moira for a reaction, who stares at her for a few seconds. Clara then leans in and kisses Moira on the lips, quite chastely. When they separate, they continue to hold hands but smile awkwardly at each other.
Was it all right that I did that?
Yes, I think so.
Are you sure?
Have you done that before?
Kissed someone?
Kissed a girl like that?
Yes. My special friend in London that I told you about.
Do women in London always kiss each other?
No. It's not usual and would be frowned upon, I think. I won't do it if you don't want me to.
Why don't you do it again and I'll see if I like it?
Clara leans in and kisses her again, this time for longer.
Well?
I like it fine.
Moira leans in towards Clara and they continue to kiss. Mrs. Tennant's living room. Moira is leaning over the table, attaching lace to a dress. Clara is dancing.
I suppose you're practicing for all those fancy dances you'll be going to?
No, I'm just happy. What's dancing in Irish?
Dausa.
Dausa. And what do you call this?
Guna.
Gooner.
Guna.
Goona. I think you should teach me to speak Irish properly.
I think that would be an awful lot of work for the both of us.
I know, but we could talk to each other and no one would know what we were saying.
When? Sure, we never speak to each other in front of other people.
Please, Moira. It would be something special between us.
Your aunt wouldn't be happy. You speaking the language of savages.
Since when do you care about making my aunt happy?
Since never.
Exactly.
Fine. I will teach you a bit of Gaelic.
Thank you.
Gurav Mahagut.
What's that?
It means thank you.
Gurav Ma'agut.
So where do we start?
Something easy, like parts of the body.
Clara sticks out her foot.
What is this called?
Cuss.
Cos. And this?
Clara sits beside Moira at the table and takes her hand.
Love.
Love. And this?
She touches Moira's face.
Ike.
Ike.
She touches Moira's ear.
Cluis.
Cluis.
She touches Moira's eyelid.
Soul.
Soul.
She touches Moira's nose.
Shrone.
Shrone.
She touches Moira's chin.
Schmig.
Schmig.
Yes, schmig.
Schmig.
She touches Moira's lips.
And these?
Viola.
Clara leans in and kisses her briefly.
Pogue.
Moira leans in and kisses Clara.
Pogue.
Clara leans in and kisses Moira again.
I have a feeling that is the only word you'll remember.
I don't think that I care.
They continue to kiss until Moira pulls away and grabs the dress she's been working on and pushes it towards Clara.
Here, this is ready for you to try on.
Really? It's finished?
As good as, makes no difference.
Oh no.
But we don't have to tell your aunt yet.
But what are we going to do?
We'll come up with something.
Clara picks up the dress.
Go on. I'd like to see you wearing my lace.
All right. For you then.
She stands and turns her back to Moira. She looks over her shoulder at Moira.
What?
Can you unbutton my gown for me?
Do you not want to do that in your bed chamber?
Why? I can do it just as well here.
It's just, I thought... It's no matter.
Moira unbuttons Clara's dress, who lets it drop to the ground and steps out of it. Moira picks it up and places it on the sofa. She then helps Clara into the new dress, doing up the buttons at the back. When she's finished, Moira runs her fingers lightly down Clara's neck and shoulder, then kisses her shoulder.
Your skin is so beautiful. Like a child's. Not like mine, all freckled.
Well, I think your skin is beautiful. Like the petals of a flower.
A flower that's been chewed by an ossel, maybe.
What's ossel?
A donkey.
Well, I think it's perfect. Just like the rest of you.
Clara grabs Moira's hands. Watching Moira closely, she places Moira's hand on her breast, then leans in and kisses her. Pulling back, she looks at Moira.
Is this all right?
Clara places her own hand on Moira's breast and leans in to kiss her again. Moira leans away.
What if someone walks in?
They won't.
Clara leans in again to kiss Moira, and this time she lets her. They kiss more intensely, but then Moira pulls away again.
I'm worried we'll be caught.
Scaredy cat.
I'm not. I just can't afford to lose my job.
All right then.
Moira, flustered, starts to fuss over the new lace trimming on the neckline of Clara's dress.
Teach me more Irish. How do you say, my name is Cara?
Cara Sanam Dum.
Cara Sanam Dum.
Moira Sanam Dum.
How do you say, hello Moira?
Do you gwish Moira?
Dia gwit Moira?
Dias Moira gwit Cara.
What does that mean?
Well, in Irish we don't say hello, we say God be with you, and the other person says God and Mary be with you.
That's lovely. So much nicer than just, hello.
I know.
Clara? Mary?
Ma'am.
Aunt. Moira has just finished putting the lace on my gown, see? Isn't it beautiful?
Yes, very nice.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, I suppose you'll be leaving us today then, Mary?
Well, there's just a wee bit of sewing to be done on the back, ma'am.
That shouldn't take too long.
No, ma'am.
But, Aunt, have you not thought about getting new lace for some of your own gowns? I'm sure you have some beautiful ones that could do with a bit of freshening up. And Moira could whip the lace up in no time if she remains here to do the work, rather than go back to Mrs. Cord's lace school.
I'm sure...
I'll just run out and ask Aunt to bring down your blue gown. I was only thinking last week how much it becomes you, but that the ribbons on it were a bit old-fashioned. Oh, in London, a gown like that with some simple laced neckline and cuffs would be much admired.
Really?
Oh, very much so, Aunt. I'm sure I saw a lady at a gathering, at Christmas, in Lady Dormer's house, wearing something not unlike it. Many ladies remarked how becoming it was on her.
All right. Ask Anne to bring down the blue gown with the ribbons. Tell me, Mary, does my niece spend a lot of time in here with you?
I don't know what you mean by a lot of time, ma'am.
Is she in here every day?
She spends a bit of time most days just watching me make the lace. Like, she's probably eager to have her gown ready and plenty of time for the ball.
Has she told you about the ball?
A little bit.
Does my niece speak to you much?
Ma'am?
Do you have conversations? Does she ask you questions? Do you ask her questions?
Well,
I couldn't find Aunt, so I just went up and grabbed the gown myself. I hope you don't mind, Aunt.
Just put it on the table there.
Clara puts it on the table. All three stand looking down at the dress, Mrs. Tennant in the middle of the group. As she is leaning over, picking at the ribbons on the neckline, Clara reaches over and grabs Moira's hand, giving it a squeeze before dropping it. The two of them grin at each other before turning their attention to the dress.
The lace school. Mrs. Corden is sitting at a table writing into a ledger.
Mrs. Tennant, nice to see you.
Mrs. Corden,
How can I help you?
I've come to look at your sample books. I'm thinking of getting some of my gowns freshened up.
Of course, why don't you take a seat here and I'll get it for you. If there was no need for you to come all the way up here, I could have sent it up to the house with Moira.
Well, I also wanted a word with you in private.
Oh?
It's that young girl you sent to make the lace for my niece's gown.
Moira, are you not happy with her work?
Her work is very good, I'll give you that.
And what is the problem?
I don't like her manner. She's overly familiar with my niece, conversing with her in a way I consider to be inappropriate for a young person in her position.
And does your niece object to being spoken to like this by Moira?
My niece is very young and quite naive in many ways. She doesn't yet understand the rules of society. She lost her mother, my sister, at a very young age, so it is my duty to ensure that Clara learns how to behave in accordance with her position.
Well, I don't understand why you object to the two young ladies merely speaking to each other. It has always been my experience that speaking with people from all walks of life is both educational and rewarding. How can we show empathy for our fellow human beings if we cannot see things from their point of view?
As a clergyman's wife, I'm sure that's very commendable. However, as a guardian and a role model, I see no value in exposing my niece to the lower orders more than is absolutely necessary.
I'm speaking as a Christian, Mrs. Tennant, not merely as a clergyman's wife.
And does your husband share your views?
You'd have to ask my husband that.
Ah, so he doesn't.
Mrs. Tennant, I'm simply pointing out that I don't speak for my husband just as he doesn't speak for me.
I think that must be a very peculiar marriage.
On the contrary, my husband and I are of the same mind in this. We believe that marriage should leave room for individual thoughts and ideas. The freedom to hold opinions that can be openly discussed between a man and wife can only lead to a strong and respectful union. I certainly could not have married a man that thought otherwise.
Well, in my experience, it is better that a couple are of one mind when it comes to important matters such as these.
Such as what? Perceived superiority of one person over another due entirely to an accident of birth.
There is no perceived about it.
We're all equal in the eyes of the Lord, Mrs. Tennant. I'm assuming you agree with that.
Maybe in his eyes, but not in mine.
And what exactly is it you want me to do, Mrs. Tennant?
I want you to speak to the girl and tell her she mustn't speak to my niece in such a familiar way and that she should confine herself to making lace, as that is what she is there to do. You have to understand, Mrs. Corden, Clara's mother was my only sister, and Clara is her only child. I myself have no living children, so must take care of Clara in memory of my sister.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Tennant. I wasn't aware that you'd lost children.
It was many years ago. A boy. 6 years of age, scarlet fever. My husband predeceased him, and I never remarried, so...
And what was your little boy's name?
Arthur Henry.
As a mother myself, I can imagine how terrible it was for you. I shall include Arthur in my prayers tonight.
And will you speak to that young woman as I have asked?
I shall.
Thank you.
But I won't be telling her that she is inferior in any way. I will simply ask her to focus more on her work. As you're concerned, it won't be finished on time.
And will you also tell her... I want my gown trimmed at neck and cuff with this, please.
Of course.
Good day.
Well, you just missed Mrs. Tennant.
No, I didn't. I heard her voice when I was coming down the corridor, so I hid in the kitchen until she was gone.
I think you were probably wise to do so.
Was she here to pick out some new trimming that Miss Evans talked her into?
Amongst other things.
That doesn't sound good.
She wants you to concentrate more on your work and less on conversing with her niece.
I'm not allowed to talk to Clara anymore.
I wouldn't go that far.
But what harm are we doing?
Well, she thinks her niece is distracting you from your work.
Well, the poor girl needs someone to talk to. Her aunt is driving her demented.
Moira.
I'm serious. For a start, she's trying to marry Clara off to some awful old goats. Did you know she was trying to make a match between Clara and that Schlieveen Mr. Godfrey?
Oh, well. That certainly wouldn't have been a match made in heaven.
I know. He'd make poor Cara's life a misery.
Did she turn down the gentleman's proposal?
I don't think he got as far as proposing. Cara put her foot down, so now the old baggage is even more set in getting her wed off. Probably wants her out of the house and out of the way.
Maura, you shouldn't presume to know Mrs. Tennant's motives. She may have reasons that you are unaware of.
There's no good reason in my mind for marrying someone off against their will.
That's as may be, but the woman is paying you well. It's best not to cross her.
So you're saying I should stop being friends with Cara?
No. I'm saying maybe try to make it less obvious that you are friends.
We don't talk to each other hardly at all when she's around. I think the old Kylock must be standing outside the room with her Cluas Moore stuck to the door.
Cluas Moore?
Big ears. Really, I wouldn't put it past her.
Well, then maybe just speak to each other when Mrs. Tennant isn't in the house. You know, Maura, she may decide to get another lacemaker to trim a gown.
She won't get one as good as me.
I know. And I have told her you're the best in the area. Still, she may decide that the speed of lace production is more important than the quality. Just think, Moira. The more work you do for Mrs. Tennant, the more money you earn and the quicker you can pay for your passage to America.
Suppose.
It's what all your hard work has been for, a better life for you and for Court and Liam.
I know, but...
But what?
I've never really had a friend before. Not like Clara. It's nice having her to talk to.
Well, don't distress yourself, Moira. Nothing's going to happen to your friendship right now. Maybe just ask Miss Evans to be a bit more careful around her aunt, and I will tell Mrs. Tennant that I have spoken to you and you'll concentrate on getting the work finished. That should satisfy her for the moment, anyway. In the meantime, Mrs. Tennant has selected this trim for her gown, so why don't you gather up the materials and head back up there now. Is everything else all right, Moira?
Yes. Can I ask you something?
Of course.
Did you want to come to Ireland before you came here when you were living in England?
Well, I knew that I would accompany my husband wherever the church sent him.
Yes, but did you want to come?
I suppose I would have preferred to stay in the place where my family lived, but I knew that as the wife of a clergyman, I must go where we're needed.
Were you worried you wouldn't like it?
Yes, a little.
Do you like it here?
Yes, I do. I like it here very much. I feel I'm able to do God's work and make a real difference to the lives of people who need help. Maura, why are you asking me these questions? Is this about your going to America?
Maybe, I don't know.
You're leaving in 3 months, is that it?
I'm supposed to, anyway.
And what are your concerns?
The boat sinking in the middle of the ocean. Me getting sick on the boat and dying before I even get there. Getting there and realising I've made the wrong decision.
Well, there's little you can do about the boat sinking. Or getting sick on the way there other than asking God to look after you. Why are you suddenly so uncertain about your decision to go? You've been so sure about up until now.
I know. It's not just me, is it?
Well, Court and Liam will always want to be where you are. You're their family.
Still, I'd be taking them away and possibly ruining their lives.
Well, that's a bit dramatic, even for you.
I'm worried, though.
Have you asked them if they want to go?
Yes, and they keep saying they want to, but I don't think they realise what going there means.
Is it maybe you that doesn't want to go now?
It just seems so final. If we go, we can't ever come back. We have to leave everything and everyone behind.
I know it's a bit frightening, Moira, but it's also exciting. America offers you opportunities you'll never get here. I know Ireland's where you were born and where your parents are buried. Life is hard here for a young girl like yourself. You've the chance of a completely different life in America. And who knows, maybe there you'll meet someone to be your partner in that life, just like I found mine.
Did your husband ever worry about taking you away from your family and friends?
I think so, yes. But he also knew that I entered married life knowing what my role was as his wife and was a willing participant.
Sometimes I just don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
I think you were left with a lot of responsibility at a very young age. Too much responsibility, really. Maybe hard for you to think about what you want, just you, without always taking others into consideration.
But there are others that rely on me.
Yes, but sometimes getting what you want is also good for them.
Is it?
Very much so. Seeing my husband and children happy makes me happy. I know it's the same for them.
So you think I should just throw caution to the wind and go?
No. I think you should rely on your own good sense in deciding to go to America in the first place. You didn't decide this just yesterday. You've thought it through. You put a reasonable plan in place. There are always unknowns in life that we can't plan for in many ways. That's what makes life interesting. Now we've to put our trust in God and our own resilience and set out into the world to make our way as best we can. Maura, you are an intelligent, hard-working and talented young woman. And I firmly believe that you will do well wherever you go. However, I do think that you will have more opportunities in America than you'll ever have here. This country's been through a trauma. There's a long way to go before it recovers fully, for your sake. For the sake of your sister and your brother, it's better that you go to America.
Will you write to me after I go? Just to let me know how things are here.
Of course I will. And I look forward to hearing from you and telling me how you and the children are getting on. Now, will you be leaving them here for long?
I don't know. See, maybe I'll wait until I have enough money to bring them with me.
Well, that's a change of plan.
Yeah, it's just I don't know if I can bear to be without them. Really.
It can be hard to leave someone you love behind, even for a short time.
I'd better be getting off to Mrs. Tennant's house. She'll have me tied to the table to make sure I finish off the new lace for her gown before leaving the country.
Bring it with you and send it back when it's finished.
Somehow, I don't think Mrs. Tennant would let me take anything of hers out of the parish, let alone the country.
Promise to return it.
I couldn't guarantee that, sure, anything could happen.
You're probably right. We have control over a lot less than we like to imagine. Mrs. Tennant's living room. Moira walks into the room, wearing her shawl. She takes it off and rubs her hands together over the small fire in the fireplace. She then sits at the table, blowing on her hands for a minute before pulling the lace pillow towards her and starts examining the work. Clara walks into the room carrying a tray with teapot, cups, milk jug.
Dia gwich Moira?
Dias Margaret, Cara.
Wailat cupon te?
Bamwalum cupante. Gurav mili mahagot, Cara. And yarna tu hene. Did you make it?
Cook did, but I asked her to and waited to carry it in myself. It's so cold today, I thought you might need it.
You're right, I'm perished. I couldn't get the fire going before I left this morning, so the house was bitter. Hopefully you managed to get it lit properly before I go home this evening, or it'll be a very poor sort of dinner we'll be having. Does your aunt know where you are?
No. She's gone out for the day with Mrs. Patterson. Collecting their new broomsticks, probably.
So you've come in here to distract me from my work?
Of course not. I'm just here to quietly read my book.
Where is this book you're supposed to be reading?
Clara looks around the room, then grabs a book from the mantelpiece.
Ansha.
Moira laughs, tries to grab it from her.
What's it called?
It's called A Very Special Story. And it's about two young ladies from different countries who meet and become fast friends. Such fast friends that they decide to run away together.
Run away to where?
A special place where nobody knows them.
And what do they do there?
They find a little house for themselves and they live together happily for the rest of their lives.
What do they live on?
Well, one of the young ladies is a talented lace maker and she makes very fine lace for all of the local women and they use that money to buy the things they need.
And while that young lady is making all the money, what's the other young lady doing?
She's looking after the house.
Cooking and cleaning, the like.
Well, I think they hire a maid to do that.
So while the maid is doing all the cooking and cleaning, paid for by the young lady making the lace, what's the other young lady doing?
She's instructing the maid on what cooking and cleaning to do.
I think that young lady has the best part of the deal.
Well, she might get a position teaching young ladies their letters and numbers.
Really?
Well, she's had plenty of tutors herself, so she knows what to do.
Well, this young lady has to get back to her lace making.
Do you ever think what it would be like for us to live together in our own house?
No.
I do.
Really?
I can see us living in a little house with a little garden full of flowers.
I think a garden of loads of vegetables and a few chickens would interest me more. And while you're dreaming up houses and gardens, could you throw in a cow? We could do with the milk.
Oh, you're so practical.
No flowers in my real or imaginary garden.
Moira, you know the way you're going off to live in America in a few months?
Yes.
What do you think of me coming with you?
Cara, what in God's name are you talking about?
You and I, going to America together.
Have you gone stark raving mad?
No.
There's not a chance in hell you and I could go to America together.
Why not?
10 million reasons why not?
Name 10.
Your aunt, for one.
Forget her.
Well, it's not just her. Nobody is going to allow a high-born young woman like yourself go off with a woman like me. And even if we did manage to get away, I barely have the means to look after myself and the children, never mind look after you.
I can look after myself.
Are you joking me? You don't even know how to make a cup of tea.
But I can learn.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph. You're serious?
Do you not care if we're separated?
Of course I care.
You obviously don't care as much as I do.
It's different for me. Mahish Mahori, God rest them, they left Liam and Koch to look after. They are now my children. It's their happiness that I have to think about.
Can you not be happy as well as them?
Jesus, Mary and Joseph, between you and Mrs. Corden, you have my head mithered.
I don't know what that means.
It means you're driving me mad with your, oh, Moira, just do whatever you want. Be happy. It'll all be grand. Well, it won't. It can't be grand. Céin fá nach diggin tú. Ní lumsa ma héal féin. Tá burt lanavig bra arm. Is cuma cad atá Is iad Koch agus Liam an rud is tábhachtí. Tá sé éasca ditsa. Níl dúlgus art smuoineh fuad féin fiú. Tá cholíní aimsere agat a dhéin in cuile rud it. Cócara ag olbhú cuile béla. Ahar agus antín ag cuinú díon os do cion. Bíonn tú a caint fún ag éilú ón áitseo le chéile, ach ní higann tú céir atá ag eisle sin. Cílíonn sé saoil nach raibh in nán dit riamh, ach ní féidir lom a beth fragrach á sin. Sular bhuail muid le chéile. Níor smuoinnig mé riamh céin rud is sonas. Ach le cúpla míon nuas sa seomra seo. Tháinig mé tuiscint éigean. Agus sin go thomláin mar geallarta. Cuirtú ceistarm. An bhfuil éon macnamh déanta ag mar geal ar an mart a gcuin in argóní le chéile. Agus dúirt mé nach raibh. Agus sin an iarna mar má smuoiníam ar na taucaí Tá is a gom nach meag tú mar cuide. Agus brisvig sé sin macrí.
I don't understand anything you said.
No. I said that although I wish with all my heart that it were different, there is no way on this earth that you and I can go to America together. Please, don't cry, Clara.
How can I do anything else?
They hold each other for a minute, not hearing Mrs. Tennant enter the room. They jump apart.
What on earth?
Aunt Elizabeth, we were just...
Just what?
I was upset about something and Moira was just comforting me.
Get your things, Mary, and leave.
Mrs. Tennant,
Not another word.
shall I?
No, leave it. I will get the servants to return it to Mrs. Corden. And I shall be writing to Mrs. Corden to insist that you are dismissed immediately.
But Mrs. Tennant, my family need my wages.
I do not care about your family. I care about mine. Now go.
Aunt, please don't do that. It isn't right.
I am not interested in what you think is right. Your judgment obviously cannot be trusted.
But blaming Moira for everything just isn't fair. And to deprive her of a livelihood is simply cruel.
I will not discuss this with you any further, Clara. Go to your room and stay there. I shall be writing to your father about this.
But Aunt...
Now, Clara. 2 weeks later, the lace school. Moira sits at the table picking at a piece of lace on a pillow. Mrs. Corden sits opposite her reading a letter. She opens a ledger and consults the letter as she moves down the page, then draws a line through something as Moira watches.
Have we lost another order?
I honestly don't know what to do about this. Seems that Mrs. Tennant has instructed every lady in the parish to stop doing business with us.
I'm sorry.
I wish you'd tell me what transpired between you and Mrs. Tennant. Maybe then I could speak in your defence and get her to stop this crusade against you. Very well. How are things at home? Are Court and Liam well?
People are saying terrible things to them. Saying our family are ungodly and that it is a blessing our parents didn't live to see what we've become. They're so upset, and now the teacher won't allow the other children to sit with them. I just don't know what to do.
Maura, have you considered maybe travelling to America sooner than you originally planned? It's not that I want to see you gone. In fact, I'll miss you dearly, but it might be better for you and the children.
I don't have enough money saved yet. I've enough for my passage and a little besides, but not enough to pay for Liam and Cautch's keep here until I can bring them over to join me. Besides, I don't think any of my neighbours will take them now after...
I can speak to my husband. Maybe we can take them to live with us until you get established in America.
can't ask you to do that. Sure, we're not even the same faith as you and your family.
You're not asking, I'm offering. And I do it as a fellow Christian. And a friend.
But I don't know how long it'll take me to get the money together to pay for their passages over.
No, there's no rush. Besides, I feel your current situation is partly my fault. It was my suggestion that you work directly for Mrs. Tennant.
You meant well.
Well, the best of intentions can lead to unexpected consequences.
I just feel so hopeless. Like I've ruined their lives as well as my own.
Nothing's been ruined, Moira. Just altered, maybe.
There's a knock on the door.
Come in.
Clara, what are you doing here?
Looking for you, of course. I don't know how long I can stay, though. I left the house without telling anyone.
Miss Evans, I presume?
I'm so sorry. Mrs. Corden, this is Clara Evans. Clara, this is Mrs. Corden.
Good morning, Mrs. Corden. I'm very pleased to meet you.
And are you? Moira speaks very highly of you. However, I'm a bit concerned that your aunt isn't aware of where you are and may worry.
Oh, it's fine. She's gone up to Dublin and won't return until tomorrow. I'd prefer to get back, though, before any of the servants realise I'm gone. Otherwise they'll be telling tales.
Very well. I shall go to see to things in the kitchen and let you ladies talk in private.
How are you, Moira? Are you all right? This is all my fault.
Mrs. Corden thinks it's her fault. Maybe you can argue it out between ye.
Does she know what happened?
No. Only that something did, and now your aunt is spreading poison about me and people won't buy my lace anymore.
How can she do such a thing?
Didn't I tell you the sort of person she was the first day I met you?
My father has written to me. I don't know what my aunt has said to him about me, but he's coming over in a few weeks' time.
For what?
To chastise me? Bring me home? Find me a husband?
Will you go home?
Do you think I should?
Clara, I don't know what to do with my own life. How can I know what you should do with yours?
Clara pauses for a second, then reaches into her bag and pulls out a smaller bag that clinks when she puts it on the table.
What's that?
It's money. My father gave it to me when I was coming over to Ireland, in case I needed to buy gowns or whatever. I don't know, it doesn't matter. It's mine, to do with whatever I choose.
Why did you bring it here?
It's for us. For our new life in America.
What are you talking about?
You and I, and your brother and sister, of course, are going to start a new life together in America. I know. You think I'm spoiled and silly like a child, so I've decided to show that I've changed, that I can't look after myself, after both of us.
I don't think...
Yes, you do. And maybe you were right, but things will be different now. I've come up with a plan.
Of course you have.
Please, don't say anything until I've told you it all. When Papa arrives, I shall ask him, may I go to America to visit a distant cousin of my mother's in Boston? I'll tell him I need a change of scene.
And what if he says no?
He won't. I'll then go to America. I think it's best that I go before you do, so that no one suspects. And then, when you arrive and are settled in... Where are you going?
Pittsburgh.
Is that far from Boston?
How would I know?
Never mind. We can work all of that out later. Anyway, as I was saying, when you are settled in Pittsburgh, you can write to me and I will join you as soon as possible.
Clara, That's all a dream.
It isn't, Moira. It will work. I promise.
How can you promise such a thing?
I can promise it because I feel it in my heart and my bones that we're supposed to be together. Have you never had something that you just know is right, that fills you with such certainty that you can't imagine it being otherwise?
No.
Well, then, you will have to trust my certainty because for me, there is no other way. I know that we are supposed to be together.
But what if it all goes wrong? What if you find you miss your father and the life you've always had and you want to go home, and then I will have destroyed your life?
Moira, I am responsible for my life. It is not yours to destroy. I have made this decision to go to and spend my life in America with you. All you have to do is make the decision to spend your life in America with me.
It's not that simple.
Yes, Moira. It is. Once you make that decision, then everything else will fall into place. This is my cousin's address in Boston. If you decide to take this leap of faith with me, you can write to me there when you are settled in Pittsburgh. I have to go now before I'm missed.
She walks around the table and behind Moira. She leans down and gathers her in her arms. They remain like that for a minute until Clara kisses Moira on the side of the head and releases her. As she walks towards the door, Moira calls her back.
Wait, what about your money?
I want you to have it. No matter what you decide. You must use it for your family. Even if you cannot see your way to include me in it.
But that's not right, Cara. It's your money.
And I'm giving it to you. I have faith in us, Moira. You must try and have it too.
She walks towards the door, but then turns and comes back to Moira, who stands and walks into her embrace. They kiss, and Clara then reluctantly leaves. Moira sits back down at the table and stares at the bag of money. When Mrs. Corden re-enters the room a minute or so later, Moira hastily hides the bag in her lap.
Miss Evans has left.
Yes.
She seems like a lovely young woman. We'll be able to see each other again, do you think?
I don't know. I hope so.